brothers and sisters, I come to you today with a message born out of experience, faith, and unshakable hope. I do the impossible, and so can you. When we face great challenges, when the odds seem insurmountable and the task ahead appears beyond human ability, it is tempting to believe that success rests solely on our own strength, our own intelligence, and our own determination. The world often teaches that if we simply work harder, push farther, and outlast the competition, we can achieve anything. Yet, when we reach the limits of human effort, when every resource is exhausted, every door seems closed, and every ounce of strength has been spent, we encounter a truth much deeper than human ambition. There is a power beyond ourselves. Throughout history, the greatest achievements have rarely come from human effort alone. They were born from a surrender to a greater force, a recognition that we are not, and were never meant to be, entirely self-sufficient. It is not weakness to acknowledge this. It is wisdom. True strength is found not in pretending we are invincible, but in admitting that we are vessels, channels, through which a higher power can work wonders. Without that connection to something beyond ourselves, our efforts are often short-lived, fragile, and self-serving. But with it, the impossible becomes achievable. When we understand that there is a power greater than our own, whether you call it God, the divine, or simply the deep moral order of the universe, we shift from living by fear to living by faith. We cease to rely solely on what we can see, touch, and measure, and we begin to operate on a higher plane. Faith opens up possibilities that logic alone cannot fathom. It stirs courage where fear once reigned. It breathes resilience into hearts that have been battered by failure. Consider the greatest leaders, inventors, reformers, and pioneers. Behind their accomplishments was often a profound sense of calling, a deep belief that their mission was not their own invention, but a destiny they were summoned to fulfill. Abraham Lincoln, in the dark hours of the American Civil War, knelt in prayer because he knew the burden of unity was too great for any man to carry alone. Mother Teresa served in the slums of Calcutta, not because human willpower could sustain her through such endless suffering, but because she trusted in the power and love of God working through her. Martin Luther King Jr., facing hatred and violence, marched not only with human courage, but with the conviction that justice was rooted in the eternal truths of God's Word. Even in more ordinary lives, when a student conquers self-doubt to pass an exam, when a parent perseveres through hardship to build a future for their children, when a worker sacrifices comfort to stand for what is right, in all these acts, there is often an unseen hand guiding, strengthening, and lifting us. We find reserves of strength we did not know we had. We experience clarity beyond our own wisdom. We endure trials that would otherwise break us. This understanding must be taught, especially in education. For if young people are raised to believe that they are alone in their battles, that they must manufacture hope from their own limited reservoirs, we set them up for despair. But if they are taught that their lives are intertwined with a greater story, that their talents are gifts meant to serve a divine purpose, they will walk differently. They will rise differently. They will not buckle when storms come, because they will know they are not alone. Moreover, when we tap into this power beyond ourselves, it humbles us. We realize that our victories are not solely our own. We become less arrogant, more grateful, more compassionate. We see others not as competitors to defeat, but as fellow pilgrims on the journey of life. Success then becomes not a crown we wear, but a gift we steward. In moments of exhaustion, when the human spirit falters, that divine power renews us. In moments of confusion, it gives wisdom. In moments of fear, it offers peace that passes understanding. And even when we fail, we sometimes must. It redeems our failures, turning them into lessons, turning our broken pieces into mosaics of hope for others. We were not created to do life alone. We were not designed to carry every burden on our own backs. We were meant to lean into a strength that surpasses human limits, to walk by a light that does not flicker with every gust of circumstance. That is why we can face the impossible with confidence. That is why we can dream bigger than our own abilities and dare greater than our own fears would allow. Because we know, not just believe, but know that when our strength ends, His strength begins. Thus, those who seek to do the impossible must first recognize this. The journey begins not with an act of will, but with an act of surrender. Surrender to the one who sees the end from the beginning. Surrender to the wisdom that shaped the stars and shaped your heart. And in that surrender, you will find the invincible power that makes the impossible possible. There is something remarkable about the human spirit. Every generation has looked up at the stars, across vast oceans, over towering mountains, and deep into the unexplored corners of possibility, and dared to believe that they could go further. Yet behind every historic triumph, every breakthrough, every moment where someone shattered the barriers placed before them, there is one quiet, invisible force at work: faith. Faith is the difference between a person who sees a wall and stops and a person who sees the same wall and decides to climb it. Faith turns limitations into opportunities and transforms what seems impossible into the birthplace of the extraordinary. Many people view limits as permanent. They see a lack of resources, a lack of experience, a lack of connections, and conclude, this is the end. But limits, in truth, are often invitations. They are not a stop sign. They are a call to rise higher, think deeper, and trust more profoundly. Faith steps into that space between what we can do and what we dream to do. It builds a bridge from limitation to possibility, and that bridge is often invisible to the eye but undeniable to the heart. When a young person stares at a mountain of impossibility, maybe a dream of becoming a doctor, an entrepreneur, a leader, or an artist, and they hear the voices around them saying, "You can't do it. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough." It is faith that answers back, with perseverance, with learning, with God's help, "I can." Faith sees the obstacle, but chooses not to be intimidated by it. Faith sees the lack, but believes in provision. Faith acknowledges the difficulty, but holds fast to the hope of success. In every classroom and in every life journey, this principle matters deeply. Education is not merely the transmission of facts and formulas. It is the shaping of minds to see that the world is bigger than their current horizon, that their potential is not locked by their starting point. A student may struggle with math, but faith teaches them that struggle is not defeat. A student may fear public speaking, but faith gives them the courage to take one shaky step forward. Over time, those small acts of courage multiply, and what once seemed a crippling limitation becomes a powerful launch pad for personal growth. Faith also changes how we perceive failure. Without faith, failure is final. It is a label stamped across our dreams, not good enough. But with faith, failure is not a tombstone, it is a teacher. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every no becomes a redirection toward a better yes. every closed door becomes a push toward a greater opportunity we had not yet imagined. It is this resilience that separates those who merely wish for greatness from those who achieve it. Consider the story of Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Without faith, Edison would have given up after the first, the fifth, or the 100th failure. Instead, he pressed on, believing that the breakthrough was not only possible, but inevitable if he did not lose heart. His inventions shaped the modern world. The same pattern holds true in every field, whether it is science, business, education, ministry, or the arts. Faith fuels perseverance, and perseverance fuels victory. Moreover, faith does not demand that we have all the answers. Faith is not blind optimism, nor is it a denial of reality. It is a lens through which reality is seen more clearly, not only what is but what can be. Faith says, yes, the facts are challenging, but the truth is greater. Yes, the road is rough, but the destination is worth it. Faith empowers people to start even when the finish line is not in sight, and to believe even when immediate results are not visible. In a world that constantly measures worth by instant success, wealth, and accolades, we must teach a different way. We must teach that character, perseverance, vision, and faith matter more. We must remind each other that greatness often begins in hidden places, in quiet sacrifices, in unseen battles, in moments when the only voice cheering you on is the still, small voice within, saying, "Keep going." Ultimately, faith transforms limits because it shifts the center of trust away from our fragile human resources towards something greater. When we anchor our faith in God, in His promises, and in His calling for our lives, we are no longer paralyzed by what we cannot do. We are empowered by what He can do through us. Our dreams are no longer constrained by our weaknesses. They are expanded by His strength. Therefore, when life places limits before you, financial hardship, academic difficulty, societal barriers, remember that you have a choice. You can view them as prisons, or you can view them as platforms. You can treat them as endings, or you can treat them as beginnings. With faith, the very place that seemed to hold you back becomes the place where you find your wings. Limits through faith are not the end of the story. They are the beginning of a greater one, a story where the impossible becomes possible, where the unseen becomes seen, and where ordinary lives become extraordinary testimonies to the power of perseverance, purpose, and divine hope. Victory does not begin in the arena. It does not begin when the medal is awarded or the dream is realized. Victory begins long before the moment of triumph. It begins in the mind. What a person believes about themselves, about their purpose, and about the world will determine whether they rise to challenges or shrink back in fear. The mindset we carry either sets a ceiling over our potential or unlocks the doors to greatness. To do what others say is impossible, we must first think differently. We must adopt the mindset of victory. The mindset of victory is not simply positive thinking or wishful dreaming. It is a cultivated, deliberate discipline of thought. It is the refusal to allow fear, doubt, and past failures to dictate the terms of our future. It is the decision to view every obstacle as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to move forward. It is a commitment to resilience even when circumstances seem bleak. It is the awareness that success is not reserved for the lucky or the privileged, but for those who dare to believe they are called to make a difference and are willing to endure the cost. Many people live in defeat long before they are ever defeated. Their thoughts are chained by limiting beliefs. I am not smart enough. I am not strong enough. I come from the wrong background. It's too late for me. These beliefs form invisible prisons. No chains are as heavy as the chains we place on ourselves through doubt. The person with a defeated mind will rarely even attempt the extraordinary because they have already determined within that they are destined to fail. In contrast, the mindset of victory is not arrogant. It does not say, I am better than others. Instead, it says, I am created with purpose. I am equipped for the challenges ahead. I may fall, but I will not stay down. It acknowledges human limitations, but refuses to let them be the final word. It holds onto the belief that perseverance, preparation, and divine strength can overcome even the steepest odds. One of the great lessons of history and scripture is that those who achieved what seemed impossible were not always the strongest, the smartest, or the most favored. They were often the ones who refused to be defeated internally. David, the young shepherd boy, faced the mighty Goliath while the trained soldiers of Israel stood trembling. What separated David was not physical strength, it was the mindset that said, "The battle is the Lord's, and He will deliver me." That mindset allowed him to step forward while others shrank back. Victory, you see, begins with what you believe about the battle and about the one who fights with you. This principle applies to every area of life. In education, students who believe they are capable, even when they struggle, are the ones who ultimately improve and excel. In leadership, those who see crises not as death sentences, but as chances to innovate, are the ones who lead their people to new heights. In personal growth, those who view mistakes not as confirmation of inadequacy, but as necessary steps on the road to mastery, are the ones who reach their goal. The mindset of victory also demands that we guard our thoughts. We live in a world saturated with negativity news cycles, full of despair, social media feeds brimming with comparison and criticism. If we passively absorb these messages, our spirits will be weighed down. We must be active in shaping our thinking, feeding our minds with truth, hope, and encouragement. Scripture tells us to set our minds on things that are noble, right, pure, and admirable. This is not mere sentimentality. It is strategic preparation for the battles of life. Moreover, a victorious mindset knows how to speak to itself. When the road grows hard, when critics jeer, when setbacks come, the mind trained for victory speaks words of life. I am not done yet. This is not the end of my story. Greater is He who is in me than he who is in the world. These affirmations are not magical incantations. They are reminders of truth that fuels endurance and hope. Finally, the mindset of victory is deeply connected to humility and gratitude. True victors understand that their achievements are not theirs alone. They know that every talent, every opportunity, every breath is a gift. This humility keeps pride from poisoning success, and gratitude keeps the heart joyful even in the midst of struggle. It allows the victor to lift others up, to share wisdom generously, and to live not for personal glory, but for a greater purpose. In the end, the battlefield is not first the competition, the exam room, the boardroom, or the public stage. The battlefield is the mind. If we win there, if we take captive every thought that tells us we cannot, and replace it with the truth that we are called, capable, and courageous, then we are already on the road to victory. Even before the results are visible, even before the crowd applauds, even before the dream is fully realized, we will have achieved something far more powerful. We will have conquered the self, defeating beliefs that hold so many back. Therefore, if you wish to do the impossible, begin today. Begin by renewing your mind. Begin by believing that your future is not dictated by your fear, but by your faith. Begin by embracing the mindset of victory and watch as the impossible becomes your reality. Dreams are powerful. They are the seeds of greatness planted within the human heart. Every invention, every movement, every act of courage or compassion began first as a dream, a vision of something that did not yet exist but could exist. However, dreams alone are not enough. A dream without action is like a seed never planted. It carries within it great potential, but left untouched, it eventually withers away. It is only when action is taken that dreams are transformed from fleeting thoughts into lasting realities. Action is the bridge between intention and achievement. No matter how inspiring a vision may be, without the discipline to act, it remains trapped in the realm of imagination. We often admire those who accomplish great things, but their success is not solely the result of grand dreams. It is the product of daily, determined steps, often small, often unseen, that collectively build toward the fulfillment of the dream. A student who dreams of becoming a doctor must commit to years of study. A musician who dreams of performing for thousands must practice tirelessly when no one is listening. A leader who dreams of changing the world must begin by changing themselves. There is a common temptation to wait until everything feels right before acting, to wait until we feel confident, prepared, strong. But if we wait for perfect conditions, we will wait forever. Action is often required in the midst of uncertainty, fear, and weakness. It is when we step forward despite our fears that real growth happens. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else, a dream, a calling, a conviction, is more important than fear. In education and personal development, this truth is critical. We must teach that learning is not passive. It is not enough to memorize information or collect diplomas. True learning is demonstrated through action, applying knowledge, testing ideas, solving problems, and creating solutions. Every lesson must find its expression in life. A student who studies leadership but never steps forward to lead has only half learned the material. A person who reads about generosity but never gives has only partially understood the concept. Action completes the cycle of learning and growth. Taking action also builds momentum. The first steps are often the hardest, but each small act strengthens resolve and brings the dream closer to reality. A single workout begins a journey toward health. A single conversation initiates reconciliation. A single courageous stand can ignite a movement for justice. Progress is rarely achieved in giant leaps. It is the accumulation of faithful, consistent steps taken day after day. As the old proverb says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Furthermore, action teaches us invaluable lessons that dreaming alone cannot. When we act, we encounter challenges we did not foresee, and those challenges sharpen us. We discover weaknesses that need strengthening and strengths we did not know we possessed. We learn humility through mistakes and confidence through perseverance. Every act, whether it leads to immediate success or temporary failure, contributes to our maturity and prepares us for greater victories ahead. There will always be critics along the way, those who scoff at dreams, who doubt, who mock efforts that seem small or insignificant. But the one who acts, even imperfectly, stands far above the one who only observes. It is easy to criticize from the sidelines. It is far harder to step into the arena. We must remember that progress belongs not to the spectators, but to the doers, those who dare to translate vision into effort, hope into work. Faith plays a crucial role here as well. Faith reminds us that even when results are not immediate, action matters. Faith assures us that the seeds we plant today will bear fruit in due season. Faith strengthens our hands when weariness sets in and renews our hope when setbacks come. Without faith, discouragement would cause us to quit. But with faith, we continue to act, trusting that each step of obedience and effort is building towards something greater. Ultimately, action is a statement of belief. When we act on a dream, we declare that it is worth pursuing. We proclaim that the future we envision is worth the cost. We acknowledge that the obstacles ahead are real but not greater than the calling within us. In this way, every act becomes sacred, a step of partnership with the purpose for which we were created. Thus, to those who dream of doing the impossible, the call is clear. Do not merely dream, act. Begin today with what you have. Take the first step, no matter how small it may seem. Trust that as you move forward, you will grow stronger, wiser, and bolder. Trust that your faithful actions, compounded over time, will build a life of impact, a legacy of courage, and a testimony to the truth that through God's strength and your willingness, the impossible becomes possible. At the beginning of any great journey, excitement runs high. Enthusiasm fills the air. The possibilities seem endless, the vision burns brightly, and the energy to begin seems inexhaustible. But as the journey unfolds, the reality of hard work, setbacks, and unexpected difficulties sets in. It is here that many lose heart. It is here that the initial fire fades, and it is here that endurance, not excitement, becomes the true measure of greatness. Anyone can start with passion. Few are willing to finish with perseverance. Excitement is important. It gives the initial spark to dreams. It stirs up hope and awakens vision. Without it, many would never take the first step. But excitement alone is fragile. It can evaporate in the heat of adversity. It can crumble under the weight of criticism. It can be silenced by delay and disappointment. That is why endurance is far greater. Endurance is what carries you when excitement has run dry. It is what holds you steady when emotions waver and external applause grows quiet. In education, business, leadership, and personal growth, this truth is universal. A student may begin the school year energized by goals, only to find midway that the challenges of study, exams, and daily discipline are harder than expected. A young entrepreneur may launch a business with zeal, only to encounter the long, grinding seasons of slow growth. A person may commit to personal transformation, only to be tempted to quit when results are not immediate. It is not the initial burst of excitement that carries them through. It is the deep, steadfast decision to endure. Endurance is the willingness to continue walking even when the journey is uphill. It is the stubborn refusal to give up, even when progress seems invisible. It is the patient faith that understands true success is not measured by how loudly you begin, but by how faithfully you continue. Many dreamers have great ideas, but the ones who see those dreams fulfilled are those who can endure the seasons of drought, discouragement, and delay without surrendering their calling. Developing endurance requires a shift in mindset. It means accepting that difficulties are not signs of failure, but invitations to grow stronger. It means understanding that obstacles are not signals to quit, but opportunities to deepen resolve. Every time we persist through adversity, we build spiritual, mental, and emotional muscle that prepares us for greater challenges ahead. Endurance, like a muscle, grows through resistance. History and scripture alike are filled with examples of those who endured long seasons of preparation, pain, and uncertainty before stepping into their destined impact. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and prison before rising to leadership in Egypt. Moses endured 40 years of wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Even Jesus himself endured suffering and the cross, scorning its shame for the joy set before him. The pathway to lasting victory is never lined with comfort. It is forged through endurance. In a world that idolizes quick success, instant gratification, and overnight fame, the virtue of endurance often feels old-fashioned, but it is as necessary today as it ever was. The most meaningful accomplishments are rarely the fastest. The deepest relationships, the strongest character, the greatest contributions to the world, these are not built in moments of excitement, but in long seasons of faithful endurance. To cultivate endurance, one must set their eyes beyond the immediate. Short-term thinking kills long-term dreams. When the focus is only on today's comfort or immediate results, it is easy to become discouraged. But when the focus shifts to the greater purpose, the deeper calling, and the eternal reward, the heart finds strength to persevere. Vision sustains endurance. Reminding ourselves why we started keeps us moving when everything in us wants to quit. Community also plays a vital role. Those who endure well are often those who walk alongside encouragers, mentors, friends, teachers, and family members who remind them of the goal, speak life into weary souls, and stand beside them in the storms. No one was meant to endure alone. Isolation weakens, community strengthens. Surround yourself with those who believe in your calling and who will not let you give up easily. Faith anchors endurance. When circumstances scream defeat, faith whispers hope. When emotions say it is impossible, faith declares that with God all things are possible. Faith does not eliminate the pain of endurance, but it gives it meaning. It lifts the eyes above the immediate struggle to the greater story being written through perseverance. Faith assures us that our labor is not in vain, even when the harvest is not yet visible. The truth remains, excitement may get you started, but only endurance will get you to the finish line. The crown is not awarded at the beginning of the race, but at its end. The reward is not for those who dreamed the loudest, but for those who walked the longest, prayed the hardest, fought the fiercest, and never surrendered their purpose to weariness or fear. Therefore, when the path grows difficult, when the nights feel long, when the burden feels too heavy, remember, this is the place where champions are forged. This is the place where greatness is shaped. Keep moving forward. Keep trusting, keep enduring, because the fulfillment of the impossible does not belong to those who were merely excited for a moment. It belongs to those who chose, day after day, to endure to the end. The journey to doing the impossible is not paved with ease, nor is it reserved for the few. It is open to every heart willing to believe, every mind willing to be renewed, and every spirit willing to endure. It begins with a deep conviction that we are not limited by what is seen, but called to live by what is unseen. It demands a mindset of victory, one that refuses to be shaped by fear, failure, or the opinions of others. It requires action, the bold step forward even when the path is uncertain, knowing that dreams without deeds are nothing more than illusions. It calls for endurance, the steadfast spirit that chooses to stand when others sit, to hope when others despair, and to press on when others give up. I tell you today, it is not by might nor by power, but by the Spirit that we overcome. It is not by our strength alone, but by the grace of God working through willing vessels who dare to say, "Here am I, send me." The impossible is not conquered by those who never stumble, but by those who never stop getting back up. It belongs to those who refuse to let temporary setbacks define permanent futures. You, too, are called to this great adventure. You are equipped, you are chosen, and you are stronger than you know. Let no one, not even your own doubts, convince you otherwise. Lift your head high, fix your eyes on the purpose set before you, and run your race with perseverance. Dream boldly, think victoriously, act courageously, and endure faithfully. The world needs what only you can bring. The future is waiting for those who will believe that through faith, action, and unshakable endurance, the impossible is not only possible, it is inevitable. Stand firm, move forward, and declare with your life, "I do the impossible."